chaos in the Pariah Nexuses. Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the factions, forces, and faces of the Warhammer 40k setting. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace. There is only time for war. If you wish to see the channel flourish and possibly take on bigger topics and get better resources, then like and subscribe, but also consider joining our Patreon or throwing a one-off tip in the form of a super thanks. And today, seeing as I am working on quite a few large projects for the Christmas period, we shall be taking a dive into the information contained in White Dwarf 501 to see what the forces of chaos are doing in the new Pariah Nexuses. And so, as usual, to quote, "The Nephilim Anomaly. Forces of Chaos. The legions of chaos claw their way into the anomaly." Across the Nephilim anomaly rages a war of technological and spiritual terror that calls to mind the horrors of the dark age of technology. As Imperial and Necron forces unleash devastating weapons in a war of annihilation, the forces of chaos find themselves repulsed by the Necrons' warp-dampening matrix of blackstone pylons. The material known as blackstone is well known to the agents of chaos. At least since the devastating battles of the Gothic War, Abaddon the Despoiler has known of the warp-dampening and empowering attributes of this scarce mineral, thanks in large part to his dealings with the Cadian pylons. The treacherous techno-savants of the Dark Mechanicum have wrought empiric amplifiers, and the warpsmiths of the heretic Astartes constructed all manner of empowering structures in sculpted, refined, and positively charged noctilith. Thus, whilst the emergence of the Pariah Nexus initially went unnoticed by the Imperium, some of those dedicated to chaos had long since surmised the nature of these empiric anomalies, if not the exact method of their construction. Some doomsayers in the thrall of the ruinous powers posited that should the Necrons expand their nodal matrices, the veil between reality and the warp may forever be sealed. There is no doubt that the Pariah Nexuses are as inimical to the mortal followers of chaos as the Imperium citizens and soldiery. Sorcerers of all stripes find their ability to channel the warp greatly affected, and the few demons able to manifest within the miasma are severely weakened by it. Even the heretic Astartes, who lack latent psychic talent, are not immune to the stilling. Those exposed to its effects for extended periods find their transhuman reactions slowed and their bitter and vengeful fury dulled. These limiting factors have, however, not prevented the most ambitious of the lost and the damned from venturing into the heart of the Nephilim anomaly. Only those who are most committed in their worship to the dark gods have shown lasting resistance to the stilling. Warbands led by zealous demagogues and dark apostles have proven capable of enduring within the Nephilim anomaly. Many believe the barrier between the Empyrean and reality to be a test from their malefic patron deities, and that by shattering its hold over the Nephilim sector, they may gain unholy favor. Agents of the Despoiler. There are few regions of the galaxy beyond the reach and ambition of Abaddon the Despoiler. The Lord of the Black Legion is pragmatic in his approach to galactic conquest. To open a new primary warfront against the Necrons and Imperium alike would be a foolish move. For now, Abaddon concentrates his efforts in those regions where he holds the upper hand, such as the Nachmund Gauntlet, where the prospect of a breakthrough against an overstretched Imperium appears more likely with each passing cycle. Whilst Abaddon has given the war in the Nephilim anomaly little attention, his occasional ally, Vashtor the Archiphane, undertakes a determined hunt to locate and unseal something he refers to only as the Vault. Unrestricted by the stilling of the Pariah Nexuses, Vashtor's dimension-burrowing hell planet, Wormwood, has emerged at the heart of the Nephilim anomaly. The Soul-Forged King shares his secrets with few mortals, even supposed allies such as Abaddon. Thus the Despoiler has pledged unto Vashtorr the service of the Soul Eaters, a Black Legion warband under the command of Lord Drakes, a member of Abaddon's inner circle. As Abaddon turns his attention once to monitoring his forces' sprawling campaigns, Drakes and his Soul Eaters have accompanied Wormwood into the midst of the Nephilim anomaly, and are charged with keeping their War Master informed as to the demon's activities within the Pariah Nexus. After all, the Despoiler has not maintained his position as commander of the Black Legion by blindingly trusting his allies, mortal or otherwise. Apostles of the Apocalypse. True to their reputation as the most devout of the heretic Astartes, the word-bearers look upon the Nephilim anomaly with abject revulsion. The stupefying contra-empiric pall that hangs over the majority of the Nephilim subsector serves both to stymie their ability to wield their warp sorceries, as well as to inhibit demon binding, rituals of possession, and all manner of other fell activity commonly undertaken by Lorgar's sons. And yet, the word-bearers have not abandoned their interests within the Pariah Nexuses, including the Nephilim anomaly. Amongst their ranks can be counted many dark apostles. These demagogues are capable of inspiring in their followers a fervent and passionate devotion. Emboldened thus, even unaugmented heretics have proven capable of functioning within the desolation of the Nephilim subsector. Many of their number view the effect of the stilling as a trial of faith set down by their dark gods. They have shown a staggering spiritual fortitude comparable with that displayed by the Adeptus Sororitas, which continues to confound Necron cryptex. The Dark Apostle Zakis Armon led a force of such traitors to Calathir, a heat-blasted world of vast deserts and sweltering jungles located upon the galactic northeastern fringe of the Nephilim anomaly. Here he found a society riven by strife. The population had already begun to succumb to the ravages of the stilling. The resulting societal breakdown had led to civil conflict and disorder on a worldwide scale. In their attempts to hold off the creeping doom, the people of Calathir had thrown in their lot with any demagogue who promised salvation. The planet's imperial clergy struggled to maintain their grip on the minds of their flocks, who had been forced to watch many of their fellow citizens fall into an inescapable stupor and become disillusioned with the imperial faith. Armon soon exploited the rampant desperation, the proselytizing of his dark commune, swaying swathes of the survivors to his cause. It was a simple matter for Armon to play upon the fears of the citizenry, to convince them that an uncaring corpse emperor had forsaken them. Mere weeks after his arrival on Calathir, Armon led an assault upon the ecclesiastical stronghold. The demagogues' teeming masses hurled themselves upon the guns of the defenders, clambering over the bodies of their fallen kin and butchering their wavering victims. The bloodshed culminated with the ritual burning of Calathir's priesthood within the sermonorium of their own cathedral. Armon has since wrought from the ruins of Calathir a grotesque monument to his own demonic patrons. Jagged spires and skeletal ruins rise over a city of ashes, around which the decaying bodies of the stilled and slain wither under the blazing light of the system's star. Zakis Armon's ambition has not been satisfied by this victory, however. The Dark Apostle has rallied several word-bearer warbands to his banner and begun to push further into the Nephilim subsector, clashing with Necrons of the Sautek dynasty and earning the ire of Imhotep the Stormlord. Vashtor's demonic emissaries have since extended their master's offer of an alliance that would see Ammon and the Archiphane combine their forces and turn the Necrons' works to their own malefic ends. The will of Tzeentch. Magnus the Red, demon primarch of the Thousand Suns, is also acutely aware of Wormwood's arrival and the Archiphane's corruption of the Necrons' artifice. He and his sorcerers have foreseen at least one future where Vashtor ascends to true godhood. The skeins of fate have, according to the cult of prophecy at least, revealed Tzeentch's will, and they have thus set in motion a web of interlacing plots with the express intention of preventing Vashtor's ascension. Unfortunately for the Thousand Sons, the effects of distilling are of particular concern to those possessed of psychic powers. The few sorcerers to have ventured within any of the Pariah Nexuses have found their powers greatly diminished, their minds, bodies, and spirits afflicted by a smothering, drowning aura that inspires terror and anguish and shrouds their prescience in obscuring mist. To the cult of prophecy in particular, operating within the bounds of the Nephilim sector is a torturous experience, capable of breaking the mind of even the most puissant sorcerer. The Rubrique Marines and Scarab occult Terminators, upon which the Legion still relies, are far more difficult to control and guide in such conditions, requiring the constant and full attention of a sorcerer to maintain combat effectiveness. This crippling issue has provided the Thousand Sons with the opportunity to send forth ancient automata and robotic thralls drawn from the subterranean vaults and towering pyramidal structures of Sartorius and Prospero, and to test them in the crucible of battle. These machines of war, many of which are based on ancient patterns and predate the Horus Heresy, have undergone millennia of sorcery and manipulation that have fused the demonic, the robotic, and the organic in a wildly imaginative fashion. Now the tech sorcerers in Magnus's employ have identified a further ingredient with which to enhance the potency of their creations. Noctilith. Suleiman Kefre, of the Cult of Knowledge, accompanied by a force composed of Prosperine automata and Rubric Marines, has been dispatched to the Nephilim anomaly to recover Blackstone and return it to the Forzari system. Upon arriving within the anomaly's bounds, however, the sorcerer immediately became embroiled in the escalating conflict between the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Necron dynasties. Skirting the edges of the fighting, he noted in the armories of Mars and other forged worlds a variety of technological terrors released from their owners' deepest vaults. Seeing an opportunity to glean new robotic terror and technological insights from his enemies, Kefre busied himself raiding and plundering the vaults of the incautious tech priests and salvaging the remains of their mechanical servants. With the aid of the attendant Dark Magi, he has since gleaned many lost secrets from the Hall of Arcane Technology he has seized, and a bounty of Noctilith to boot. Spider's Web. Fabius Bile's curiosity knows no bounds, and the conflict within the Nephilim anomaly soon piqued his interest. His obsession with genetic manipulation requires a constant stream of fresh subjects, and the chaotic fighting, coupled with the effects of distilling, provides Bile with the opportunity to fill his vaults. Accompanied by a bodyguard of his own creations, and aided by heretic Astartes of the Flawless Host, Bile struck at Restitution, the chapter planet of the Gilded Sun's Space Marines. Located near the center of the anomaly, Restitution had already repelled several Necron attacks, and the Space Marines had reached the limits of their transhuman endurance by the time Bile's Tetrata breached their fortress monastery. Bile's mutant servants, their resistance to the stilling, strengthened by their master's abominable experimentation, slaughtered the remaining defenders, and escaped with the bounty of gene seed plundered from the Gilded Sun's shattered apothecarian. Bile and his monstrous Terrata continue to haunt the fringes of the Nephilim anomaly, seeking further opportunities to seize invaluable organic material and chemical reagents with which to further their master's gene heresy. The Archiphane's arrival. The escalating arms race between the Necron cryptex and the Adeptus Mechanicus tech priests is perhaps best illustrated by the conflict in the Scaran system. There, having purged Necron defenders from several of the system's planets, the Martian commander of an Adeptus Mechanicus Blackstone-seeking accretion fleet, Meridominus Gelf, sought to establish a beachhead before launching an assault on the system's Noctilith pylon, located on Scaran's coil. The Necrons of the Caesarican dynasty and their vassals had no intention of allowing the Martian commander to achieve this objective, and in response sent a fleet deemed more than capable of utterly disintegrating the Imperial interlopers. The Necrons, however, had not reckoned with an ancient technological terror that Gelf had dredged from his Forge World's vaults, and now, to the concern of many of his own priesthood, sought to turn loose upon the Xenos. This network of weaponized micro-servitor satellites, named Shivrex Constellation by its architect, wrought terrible destruction on Necron and human vessels alike. In the midst of the unfolding carnage, reality itself was torn asunder. Rippling waves of empiric force overloaded Necron and Imperial machinery and detonated the satellites of Shivrex Constellation. The hideous mass of wormwood bled into reality, ripping and bowing the fabric of space as it burst forth in an eruption of warp fire and ectoplasmic energy. Those humans who gazed upon the warped and distorted mass of wormwood at the moment of its arrival were struck down by abject fear and revulsion. Even Necron cryptex recoiled at this travesty of invention and artifice. Accompanying Vashtor's hideous world engine were fleets of heretic Astartes vessels daubed in the colors of a dozen or more warbands, who took advantage of the confusion to sweep down and obliterate their victims. As wormwood completed its translation, a final tide wave of empiric energy rippled forth, sundering Martian and Necron war machines alike before crashing into the Blackstone pylon. In an instant, the structure's polarity was reversed. The corrupting energies of the warp spilled into reality and swept across the entire system like blood from an open vein. From gaping rifts in reality poured flesh-metal monstrosities illuminated by the ghastly light of wormwood. Their fanged maws open wide, their smouldering eyes burning with boundless hunger. Wormwood now hangs amidst the Skaran system, a luminescent sphere of corruption and disorder from which pour the Master of the Soul's malign thralls. Vashtor's ultimate goals remain a mystery even to his most trusted allies, the sheer preponderance of arcane and eldritch technology being unleashed within the Pariah Nexus has drawn the Archiphane's attention. For in the vault-like hulls of Adeptus Mechanicus Explorator barks and the hands of ingenious Necron cryptex, he may find all manner of mechanical terrors to twist and corrupt to his cause. Some of his mortal followers even speculate that by unmaking the Necron's nodal matrix, the Archiphane may reveal clues as to the location of the fated lock from which wormwood is the key. Thus far, Vashtor appears content to allow his followers to strike at the Necrons and Imperial forces alike, further expanding his sphere of influence in the heart of the Nephilim anomaly. The Silent King observes wormwood's obscene mass through the eyes of his underlings and views the Archiphane's presence as the greatest threat to the Nephilim anomaly's expansion. Thus, he has already tasked his technomandrite allies with devising a method of unmaking this potential threat to his ascendancy. End quote. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. Like and subscribe, tip if you are feeling particularly generous. But most importantly of all, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.